On this episode of Smarter CEO Talk, Dr. Segun Adu explores brain rot, a phenomenon that's rewiring our brains.
Oh, I'm sorry. Where was I? Does this sound familiar? You open your phone just for a second to check the news, and suddenly it's 2 a.m. You've fallen down a rabbit hole of updates. You've been absolutely zoned in, scrolling through social media feeds endlessly. And then suddenly you become aware that you've been at it for more time than intended, perhaps even for hours, scrolling through bad news, conspiracy theories, endless drama, and now you feel anxious, exhausted, but weirdly addicted to the chaos. On the other hand, you find yourself unable to focus on reading anything for more than 5 minutes. Welcome to what scientists are now calling brain rot. It's a phenomenon that's literally rewiring your brain. Today, we're going to explore the real mechanisms behind brain rot, what's actually happening inside your head when you consume endless streams of short-form content, and why we can't seem to stop scrolling. We'll be looking at the parts of your brain being affected and, more importantly, learn evidence-based strategies to keep your cognitive health in our hyper-digital world. So let's dive in. The average person spends more than 7 hours a day in front of a screen. Social media alone accounts for around 2.5 of those hours. Studies show that up to 80% of the content we consume during these sessions is emotionally impactful, either positively or negatively. Dr. Anna Lembke, a professor of psychiatry at Stanford, calls it the dopamine deficit state. She's the author of Dopamine Nation, and she describes it as a state where our brains become so accustomed to constant stimulation that we lose the ability to focus on slower, more meaningful activities. This is your brain. It's an incredible organ with about 86 billion neurons, constantly adapting and rewiring based on what we feed it. And today we're feeding it a digital diet that's fundamentally different from anything humans have experienced in our long history. Dopamine is your brain's reward currency. Every like, every ping, or emotional post gives a mini dopamine hit. The challenge is that your brain begins to build tolerance. So you need more stimulation to get the same reward. That's why you can scroll for hours and still feel anxious or unfulfilled afterwards. But let's start with definitions. So brain rot describes the mental fatigue and cognitive decline we experience from consuming too much low-quality digital content. Examples are endless short-form videos with no depth, YouTube binges, clickbait headlines, and shallow blogs. This content can numb the brain. So brain rot isn't just a meme. It's a real neurological phenomenon, and it refers to the deterioration of cognitive function caused by things like doom scrolling, which is a compulsive negative media consumption, information overload, like TikTok, YouTube Shorts, endless notifications, binges, poor sleep, which is a disruption of our circadian rhythm, diet and lifestyle, including processed foods, lack of exercise, and the list goes on. These habits don't just make you tired, they physically change your brain's structure and function. And we're talking about several interconnected cognitive processes here. They're all being impacted, such as attention residue, which is like when your mind struggles to fully disengage from digital stimuli. We also have, dopamine dysregulation, which is a disruption of your brain's reward system, and it drives compulsive behavior. Another impact is cognitive bombardment, leading to fragmentation, which is a breakdown of sustained deep thinking. Further, we have neuroplasticity changes, which is literal rewiring of our brain circuits. The effects primarily impact your prefrontal cortex, which is your brain CEO, which is right here. It's responsible for executive functions like focus, decision making, and impulse control. But as we'll see, the damage spreads throughout multiple brain networks. Let's break it down. Think of your brain like a muscle. If you only ever do quick, easy exercises, you lose the ability to do heavy lifting. That's what's happening when we consume nothing but bite sized content. So, why is it harmful? Well, it shortens attention span by conditioning the brain for instant gratification, like essentially fast food. It feeds passive consumption, which leads to lower engagement and recall. Additionally, it increases mental fatigue, anxiety, or emotional burnout through overstimulation or, in fact, emotional manipulation. And as well, it erodes memory and executive function if consumed excessively, especially without balance from cognitively enriching tasks. In fact, I've often contextualized this as unreal situations which are designed to affect our real emotions. If you think about it, how much of that content keeping you awake scrolling is even real? And that overexposure can cause emotional numbness. And to break it down further, when your dopamine pathway is constantly being activated, it begins to suppress activity in the prefrontal cortex. A 2017 study in the journal Computers in Human Behavior found that heavy social media users show decreased activity in this region when trying to focus on tasks. Another study in 2019, published in the Journal of Behavioral Addiction, found that excessive social media use changes the structure of the brain's frontal cortex, making it harder to focus on long term goals and creates impulsive behavior. Perhaps let's take a little detour to define and understand dopamine a little bit better. So, dopamine is a neurotransmitter, a type of chemical messenger that your brain cells use to communicate. It's like a motivation and learning molecule, and it's evolved in wanting something, seeking something, learning to repeat behaviors that feel rewarding. So when your brain encounters something surprising and better than expected, dopamine is released. And this drives your attention and energizes you to act. And it helps your brain to remember what led to that reward so you can repeat it if needed. Modern technology, especially social media, hijack this system. So every ping, every like, every comment or scroll creates small, unpredictable dopamine releases. But here's the problem: repeated stimulation leads to tolerance. And over time, your brain releases less dopamine for the same stimulus, meaning you need more scrolling, more likes, more novelty to feel the same satisfaction. And this can lead to a reduced motivation for non digital rewards. So, like natural human activities like walking, conversations, having meaningful conversations, or even reading. And it can also lead to impulsive behavior. So you have attention problems culminating in emotional numbing. Studies using fMRI brain imaging show that social media notifications, activate the same neural pathways as addictive substances. Dr. Anna Lemke's research demonstrate that constant digital stimulation leads to what she calls dopamine dysregulation. Your brain starts needing more and more stimulation to feel normal. Meanwhile, excessive screen time affects another part of your brain called the anterior cingulate cortex, which is right here. It helps regulate attention and emotional responses. When this area becomes hyperactive from constant digital switching, you experience what researchers call continuous partial attention. So you never fully focus on any one thing. This creates what's referred to as anhedonia, a reduced ability to experience pleasure from normal activities. So your anterior cingulate cortex, which processes reward prediction errors, uh, become hyperactive, constantly seeking the next digital hit. And the result is essentially a brain stuck in a cycle, craving digital stimulation, getting temporary satisfaction, and then immediately wanting more while finding less reward in offline activities. This is the neurobiological basis of what we experience as brain rot. To understand brain rot further, we need to talk about your brain's reward system. So, deep in your brain, you have structures like the nucleus accumbens and the ventral tegmental area that release dopamine when you experience something rewarding. Now, here's the problem: social media platforms are engineered to hijack these systems. Dr. Robert Lustig, a researcher at UCSF, explained that social media companies are essentially weaponizing these systems. They use what researchers call variable ratio reinforcement, the same principle that makes gambling addictive. You never know when you'll get the next hit of validation, funny video, or captivating post. These algorithms, like those in gambling, deliver rewards through engaging content after an unpredictable number of actions, such as scrolling, and it creates a highly addictive feedback loop. This unpredictable reinforcement keeps you hooked, just like people who, play slot machines. So if you look towards the back of the brain from the ventral tegmental area to the nucleus accumbens area, when you get to like that flow, when you get to like a comment or see something interesting, dopamine travels from here to here, the nucleus accumbens, also called the brain's pleasure center. This is the exact brain pathway that's activated in gambling and other addictive behavior, even like drugs. So you have this ancient reward system designed to help our ancestors survive, being hijacked by modern technology while simultaneously weakening parts of your brain that are supposed to keep us in control. Right here, your prefrontal cortex. And here is where it gets problematic. Chronic overstimulation of the dopamine system leads to a downregulation. So your brain reduces dopamine receptors to protect itself. So it means you need more stimulation to feel the same reward, and everyday activities that used to feel rewarding start to become boring. Dr. Anna Limke describes this as falling below your dopamine baseline. So activities like reading a book, having a conversation, or taking a walk, things that provide moderate, sustained reward, can't compete with the intense, intermittent reward of digital media. So, what other parts of the brain are affected? As I've already explained, the prefrontal cortex, which is your CEO, is affected. Studies show that excessive screen time reduces gray matter in the prefrontal cortex, making it harder to resist distraction. And the result is that you procrastinate more and you struggle with deep work. It also affects the amygdala, which is your fear center. The amygdala is somewhere here, right here. It's the almond shaped structure in the temporal lobe. It's your brain's panic button. Doom scrolling, for instance, bombards this and keeps you in chronic stress mode, resulting in increased anxiety, irritability, and even paranoia. It also affects the striatum, which is the addiction hub, which is up here around the center of the brain. It's the same region hijacked by gambling and drugs. Social media's unpredictable rewards, like shocking news, trigger dopamine spikes, making scrolling addictive. And the result is that you crave constant stimulation and feel bored in real life. And then you have your memory bank, which is your hippocampus, which is right here, a seahorse shaped structure in the temporal lobe. The hippocampus stores new memories. The effect of brain rot is chronic stress and poor sleep, which shrink the hippocampus, and the result is brain fog, forgetfulness, and difficulty learning. Furthermore, it affects the insula, which is the gut feeling center, which is here, right here. This is your insula, and it processes self awareness and intuition. Information overload dulls this region, making you less in tune with your body and emotions. And this can result in you ignoring hunger cues, even overeating, and feeling disconnected. So, brain rot isn't just feeling tired, it's physical brain damage. And this isn't just a personal issue, it's a collective one. Dr. Sherry Tuckle at MIT found that social media overuse reduces empathy and social awareness, where we are becoming less connecting, even as we scroll constantly. And also economically, this is part of the attention economy because your distracted mind equals someone else's profit. But perhaps it's not all bad news because the same neuroplasticity that allowed digital media to rewire your brain can be harnessed to restore healthy cognitive patterns. The key is intentionality. So instead of passively consuming whatever algorithms serve you, you actively choose how you want to use technology. Because as you and I know, the technology isn't going away, but you can change how you interact with it. So, you can curate your feed, you can unfollow accounts that perhaps stress you out, um, follow creators who uplift, inform, or inspire. Even changing your digital diet rewires the brain positively. And we can practice attention training. Mindfulness meditation literally strengthens your prefrontal cortex and attention networks. Dr. Michael Posner's research shows that just 5 days of attention training can improve executive attention. There's also deep work practices. Carl Newport's concept of deep work, sustained focus on cognitively demanding tasks, actively strengthens the neural circuits damaged by digital fragmentation. Additionally, we can practice sleep hygiene. So, implementing strict boundaries around screen time before bed protects your circadian rhythm and allows memory consolidation. Further, we have environmental design. So, you can remove digital temptations from your environment. Your surroundings matter. So, you can move social apps off your home screen, turn off notifications, create phone free zones, especially in the bedroom. Because, just having your phone in a different room improves focus by 10% or more. And finally, slowly increase your tolerance for boredom, of unstimulated states, because this can restore your brain's ability to find rewards in everyday activities. Remember, your attention is the most valuable resource, not money, not time. Attention is what determines how you live, think, and feel. You have more control over your mental environment than you think. Your brain is the most complex organ in the universe. So we don't really want modern life to turn it into mush. Small changes today can rebuild your focus, memory, and mental health. So thanks for listening, and feel free to let me know one thing that you'll change today to protect your brain. Let me know in the comments. Thank you.